Today marks 80 years since the liberation of the Auschwitz death camp, recognised in Germany as a nationwide day of remembrance for the victims of the Nazi regime. But even now, Germany's synagogues and Jewish institutions still require police protection due to anti-Semitic attacks and threats. The war in Gaza and the prospect of the far-right AfD doing well in German elections next month have only added to the sense of unease. But a relatively new Jewish students' organisation is doing what it can to build bridges. DW's Shani Brazanas reports.
I've had Nazi salutes thrown at me. I've had people call me a dirty Jew. But even in the times when people aren't being anti-Semitic towards me, people still stare, because it's not normal to walk down the street in Germany with your kippah. And I want it to be.
This is Rabbi Jeremy Borovitz. He, along with his wife, who is also a rabbi, runs the German affiliate of Hillel, a huge American Jewish students' organization.
What we want Jews to do more than anything is to not feel like I'm Jewish at home and I'm German on the street.
And yet, 80 years after the end of the Holocaust, he asked us to only film inside, saying it would be dangerous to show the Hillel House location. Things have become more difficult since October 7, 2023, the terror attack on Israel, and Israel's resulting war against Hamas in Gaza.
A lot of people have had different kinds of difficult experiences over the last months. Many of them have lost friends in the last year and a half. The biggest single thing is this expectation from non-Jews that any Jew should answer for anything the state of Israel decides to do.
For some of the participants, the Hillel offers space after other places become less welcoming.
I've had to stop talking to people I've known for a long time because it was just too painful. It is very personal. In addition to navigating spaces like university campuses that at some points can feel hostile towards us.
When choosing a location for Germany's Hillel 6 years ago, Borovitz and his wife decided on a Berlin area well known for its large Muslim community. They host joint events and several collaborations with Muslim neighbors. Even so, global events impact local relations.
In some ways, my life has gotten more difficult around here. I would say the streets have gotten more difficult and more tense. The anti-Semitic incidents that have happened to me on the street have multiplied tenfold. I also have more friends from the Muslim community, from the Arab community, from the Palestinian community than I've had in the past.
And this is where some of those connections led to. The local municipality building town of Neukölln, which has hosted a public candlelighting for Hanukkah over the last 3 years.
There are especially Muslim leaders in the city who understand what I call the struggle as much as we do. They understand all the nuances, all the aspects of the fight against anti-Semitism, and that allows us to be real allies and to overcome together Islamophobia, which also is a growing problem in our society.
The rise of the party Alternative for Deutschland, AfD, in the political landscape shows increasing numbers of Germans are voting for populist xenophobic politics, to the dismay of many in the community.
For me personally, it's not just about learning we are protecting our Jews, but rather it is also simply about how fascism can arise. Not that Germany has learned all that much in the last 70 years. Otherwise, we wouldn't have over 30% support for the AfD.
It's terrifying. The AfD is terrifying. I really don't appreciate when some Germans claim that anti-Semitism in Germany today is imported, as if there was never any German anti-Semitism. It's just another example of certain people in German society trying to offload responsibility.
Well, let's bring in Dalia Grinfeld, the Deputy Director for European Affairs at the Anti-Defamation League, where she works to combat anti-Semitism and to promote justice and equality. Dalia, great to have you with us. How do you explain adults minimising the Holocaust's scope and also many young people who haven't heard about it?
So in our survey, the ADL Global 100, a survey that studies the anti-Semitic attitudes of over 100, we see that the younger population has more anti-Semitic beliefs than the older generation. And we also see that the younger generation has a slightly terrifying view of the Holocaust. So while 86% of the Germans believe that the Holocaust happened and is fairly described, only 30% of adults believe that 30% of adults believe that Jews talk too much about the Holocaust.
So if this belongs under the banner of Holocaust distortion, how can we combat the spread of Holocaust distortion in today's particularly online platforms?
So Holocaust distortion is one of the main problems of anti-Semitism spreading today. When we don't have enough education in countries like Germany, but also around the world, we see that Holocaust distortion is spreading. And one of the things that is the trailblazer for Holocaust distortion is social media, because it is a platform where hate can spread, where there's not enough limitations, where there's not enough regulations to stop this hate, and especially extremists who are very popular on platforms like TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, who stop them from spreading their hate. So countering that by having more regulations and also by really forcing them off those platforms, that would be one of the solutions.
Dalia, what do you say to people who argue that anti-hate initiatives are limiting free speech?
In Germany, I live in Germany, we have a very different view of freedom of speech than in the US. So I believe that it is very important to look at what the national history is and the European or transatlantic relations are. But freedom of speech doesn't mean that you should say everything. So there's a legal aspect to this. Whatever one country holds as should be legal to say or write or do. But there's also a moral aspect to this. So there is a very important aspect to international organizations, including the ADL, to say, there are things you are legally allowed to say, but maybe you shouldn't. And most likely, if you don't, we all will have a better society together.
How can Jewish organisations address what seems increasing polarisation, to put it that way, in society, as well as outright hostility against the Jewish community?
So first and foremost, I don't think it is the job of the Jews to fight hate alone. And I also don't think that it's the job of the Jewish organizations to fight anti-Semitism by themselves. Of course, Jewish organizations like us at the ADL, our core piece is fighting anti-Semitism, fighting hate, but it is a wholesome society that needs to fight this together. That means governments acting on anti-Semitism, like appointing special envoys on anti-Semitism, like Germany has done, but also it is about teachers giving the correct education about the Holocaust, what happened, what can you do as an individual. It is about civil society organizations holding together different parts of society, coming to remember what the Holocaust meant, not only for the Jews, but the whole society. So I would say it's not that the Jews have to fight anti-Semitism. It's potentially that the Jews can make, or us Jews can put people together at a table. But at the end of the day, it is about the entire institutional gravity that we have that has to come together to fight anti-Semitism.
Dalia Grinfeld, Deputy Director for European Affairs at the Anti-Defamation League, thank you so much.